On this edition of NDDC and You, we dive into the International Literacy Day organized by the NDDC, as the United Nations has constantly expressed concern over literacy levels in the Niger Delta, citing poor infrastructure, poverty, and limited access to quality education as a major obstacle to human development. But the narrative is beginning to change as the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) is introducing programs, workshops, and digital initiatives to transform learning across the Niger Delta. As part of activities marking the 2025 International Literacy Day, the Commission is championing efforts to promote literacy and digital education for young people in the region.
The Niger Delta is a land of promise, rich in culture, resources, and human talent. At the heart of its future lies education. The Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) is taking bold steps to promote literacy and digital empowerment, ensuring that young people across the region are prepared to thrive in a fast-changing world. In celebration of International Literacy Day 2025, the NDDC brought together educators, students, and development partners at the Justice Mary Odili Judicial Institute in Port Harcourt. The event served as a platform to highlight the importance of literacy and digital education in shaping the future of the Niger Delta.
Even if you're not going to school, you won't go and make it. So, food and clothing are constant, isn't it? So what we're looking at, the little school fees you pay once in a year, and of course books. If you think that that is impossible, the person standing here before you is himself a motivation. I'm not motivated. My personality is in itself motivation. Why do I say so? It may surprise you. I grew up to meet a very wealthy father, but before I get to write WAEC and actually pass, his wealth went down. And I will tell you, the last school fees my parents paid for me was the WAEC register. The rest of it is between me, between I and my God. And I stand here to tell you that that person whose parents paid last school fees in a secondary school is a professor today and also a lawyer. You can make it. Don't be influenced by bad friends. Don't see someone out there who is big and they just want to be like that without understanding the process of getting to where it is. You can make it. And the surest way to make it is self-development. At this stage, education should be your target.
Because you find out that as children are growing, if you learn sewing, if you learn how to make hair, when you get to school, if you learn barbering, if you learn what at least about this something, there must be a hard work that will make that difference. When you get there, they will know that these ones are coming from the Niger Delta states. Because we have a board that is very innovative. And because of that, we are very conscious of that. We keep to it. Just like you said, everything you say, this board tries to learn and draw from it. Just like one of our brothers have said, you see, we are looking at the fact that, okay, what happened? Why is it that in the olden days, people go to farm and not the rest of them, but they last longer? Okay, now that you are resting, that you see that because you're not doing too much work, people are supposed to go up to 120, 130, because there are emerging technologies, innovations that are coming out, you understand, to take part of it. Those things are dramatic. We look at it and you know that in solving problems, you make money. We look at those areas that you're talking as you are here. These are some of the drawbacks that are coming from this program today.
For the NDDC, literacy is more than the ability to read and write. It is a foundation for opportunity, creativity, and empowerment. Education opens the door to innovation employment, and a prosperous society. The NDDC is advancing digital education by establishing ICT centers, supporting e-learning initiatives, and promoting digital literacy. These efforts are preparing the next generation to compete on the global stage and take advantage of opportunities in technology and innovation.
Theme of this celebration is, please let's go back to the theme, promoting multilingual education, literacy for mutual understanding and peace. I want to just say a few words, then I'll move on to my talk. I'm not a linguist anyway, but when we come to multilingual languages for children, I want to say that having understanding different languages is an advantage. Unlike some of us who want to stay away when we are small, say, I don't want to learn this language, and then we are growing up. But I want to tell you that as you go across life, you will meet these language barriers will really, if you're multilingual, it will help you.
Literacy actually promotes self-esteem. Literacy promotes education. It builds an economy and it develops the nation. So with the love that the executives have, especially our MD, he loves the youth to be developed. And so he has approved that we have this seminar so as to broaden the scope of the Niger Delta students so that when they go elsewhere, they will be able to develop their different locations.
From scholarships to school rehabilitation, from vocational training to digital empowerment, the NDDC is building a strong educational foundation across the Niger Delta. These investments reflect a vision where every child has access to quality education and the tools to succeed in knowledge-driven economy.
Yes, I want to first of all commend NDDC for this wonderful program. Now, from this seminar, a knowledge has been impacted into me as an educator. I'm going to introduce vocational skills in my own department in the school. In as much as I know that my school has already introduced vocational skill, we've created a department where children are going to learn various skills such as hair making, makeup, and all the rest of them.
Yeah, it's very beneficial because we live in a digital world, and as students of this age, it's important that they learn the skills that are necessary to help them make impact in their generation. Apart from teaching them about digital skills, they're also teaching them about the importance of learning multilingual languages, okay, so that it will help them to make better impacts in terms of their knowledge in the world.
I've learned a lot, like the technology aspect. I've learned that I can change the world with my ideas, and I don't have to depend on anybody to start up something.
I'm happy that my school nominated me to attend this program. I've learned a lot about how I can change the world with technology and AI, and how I can also help people that don't have enough financial aid for school, like the scholarship programs that the NDDC are holding. If I grow up, I would like to hold a program like this.
Education is the key to unlocking the future. Through literacy and digital empowerment, the NDDC is shaping a new generation of leaders, innovators, and achievers. A brighter tomorrow for the Niger Delta begins with a promise of education today.
Up next on NDDC and You, we turn to the Commission's efforts in building peace across the Niger Delta through its Department of Dispute and Conflict Resolution. The NDDC promotes dialogue, mediation, and negotiation as an alternative to prolonged court battles. This approach is helping communities resolve disputes faster, reduce violence, and embrace unity.
Conflicts in the Niger Delta takes many forms. Sometimes It is a disagreement between communities over boundaries. At other times, it is disputes between oil companies and host communities. There are also clashes over resource sharing, youth restiveness, and even disputes within families and workplaces. These conflicts, no matter how small, often escalate and disrupt development. Schools are closed, businesses suffer, and government projects are delayed. In many cases, court processes take years and creates more bitterness instead of peace. The Commission organizes training programs to strengthen the skills of community leaders, youth groups, women, and staff. The theme of one of its major workshops was Fostering Lasting Peace through Alternative Dispute Resolution. Lessons from the past, building future opportunities. In these sessions, participants learn how to prevent conflicts before they start, how to negotiate fairly, and how to ensure peace lasts after agreements are reached. The goal is not just to settle disputes, but to create a culture of peace and dialogue across the Niger Delta.
Today, we gather with a shared commitment to enhance the power of alternative dispute resolution, ADR, as a critical instrument for sustaining peace, unlocking development, and advancing the Renew Hope agenda and economic reform agenda of Mr. President across the Niger Delta and beyond. We stand at a consequential moment in our national journey. It calls us to reflect deeply on what has worked, what must be reinforced, and how we can leverage ADR to translate policy intentions into intangible, peaceful, and prosperous outcomes for community that have borne the brunt of conflict for too long. I intend to reflect my MDCO quote that anchors our discourse today, that the Renew Hope and economic reform agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a social contract in form of induction. We have entered in NDDC with the commitment of ensuring the vision of the Renew Hope agenda is being transformed into reality in the Niger Delta region with infrastructural and human capital development. Dr. Samuel Ogboku's articulation reflects the Commission's unwavering dedication to transforming the Niger Delta through the Renew Hope agenda. This agenda, championed by Mr. President, focuses on economic reform, enhanced security, agricultural development, and infrastructural improvement. In short, it is about translating policy into practice that uplifts lives.
Without peace, development will not come our way. Recently, NDDC has been commissioning projects in different states of the region. And that could be possible because of the peace that being observed by the different people, different youth, different groups, women, elders in their communities. Without that peace, things will not go forward. So we are here to reinforce the saying that peace must be present in the development to go forward. The days are over where we say we don't go agree. At times you say we don't go agree by even just mere sitting down. The Emperor made a statement concerning India, where non-violence is used to achieve what they wanted to achieve. They still achieved it. At times, the people who you think are so quiet, they are not strong enough, can surprise you. So the best thing to do is to see how we can resolve issues peacefully. We argue over things, we dialogue.
Alternative dispute resolution resonates strongly with indigenous traditions of consensus building, restorative justice, and community dialogue. customary conflict resolution approaches, such as the use of elders, chiefs, and councils, reflect principles of mediation and conciliation. Modern ADR frameworks have adapted these traditions, offering a culturally relevant complement to formal judicial systems. By providing flexible, efficient, and relationship-preserving methods of resolving disputes, ADR serves as both a complement and an alternative to litigation.
That the rule must be fair.
The Commission is also looking inward by training its staff on compliance, transparency, and due process. The Niger Delta Development Commission wants to lead by example. When internal operations are free from conflict, corruption, and mismanagement, the Commission can serve the people better. This move ensures that alternative dispute resolution is not just for communities, but also part of the Commission's own workplace culture.
Conflict can begin to happen because of the wrong interpretation that people may have of actions of people. And so, at NDDC, there is a department of dispute and conflict resolution, which means that grievances that, if allowed to escalate, can create problems, could be addressed even before they get to that point. There are conflicts that, by simply understanding the emotional situation of the other party, would almost immediately bring some respite. So, well, this has happened, that has happened. Maybe those are the reasons. Maybe those are the factors explaining his behavior. And if you do not respond with an oral communication that has the capacity to escalate that dispute at workplace, you are most likely to have doused the tension. Because what matters most times is the way we respond.
Talk of transparency is inevitably talk of accountability and integrity. Transparency is equal to openness. Accountability is about responsibility. And integrity is about, it's approximately honesty. Do we practice all of this within the workplace? How many of you understands, the financial status of NDDC? Do you have, meetings? Do you relate fully with your, senior officials within the institution? And I talked about the moral dilemma of NDDC. The moral dilemma is that, is this an institution established for us to transform our socioeconomic, problems? So it's a moral problem when we as workers, who are also citizens of the component states, then begin to subvert the goals of that organization. So even when it comes to the question about conflict, to what extent should you take your conflict? Is it to the extent that the goals of the organization are being subverted? All of those things we talk about, due process, transparency, accountability, integrity, they are ethical norms. Alternative dispute resolution is essentially a transformation of the judicial process in the justice delivery system. In other words, ADRO is a statutory creation of new courses of action, a quote, to decongest the court, prevent unnecessary cost and delay, enhance community involvement in the ADRO process, and facilitate access to justice.
Key things for inclusive decision making, you need trust. You have to prevent conflict. If you don't have a capacity to prevent conflicts, you multiply conflict in any situation you are. So capacity building is important. Then we have to make decisions that include everyone. It's only in ADR you can achieve that. But there are variants, because I've had people taking over ADR. From my practical experience and the little academic experience, there are variants that I will explain here. What are the challenges that institutions face? As an institution, you must have a challenge. One of the key challenges is corruption. Secondly, unfairness. Then thirdly, lack of what? Accountability. Because institutions are run by human beings, not by machine. And human beings are prone to error because we are creatures of emotion. And also, we are creatures of sympathy, not even what? Empathy. So that is why it is difficult to see a human institution that will be devoid of all this. So there are recurrent problems, which is part of life. And for you to be able to handle this, you must develop a capacity to manage it.
Across the Niger Delta, communities are beginning to feel the impact. Disputes that would have dragged on for years are being resolved in weeks. Youth groups are more engaged in dialogues than confrontation. Women, who often bear the brunt of conflict, are finding new platforms to speak and be heard. Across the Niger Delta, communities are beginning to feel the impact. Disputes that would have dragged on for years are being resolved in weeks. Youth groups are more engaged in dialogues than confrontation. Women, who often bear the brunt of conflict, are finding new platforms to speak and be heard.
We are proposing these alternatives so that people, instead of taking into violence or armed conflict, you can explore these options. And the Lagos example has shown us that it has achieved over 12,000 cases. It has mediated over 12,000 cases and resolved over 7,000 cases. It has recovered over 49 billion naira and $82 million. I am mentioning this so that you see that it can achieve so much, not only in community issues, but about those corruption that we are not happy about.
You can see that if the MD, Samuel Buku, is not being transparent in terms of budgeting for making provision for projects in the Niger Delta region, he will invite stakeholders. Under that circumstance, he invited the stakeholders in the Niger Delta region, in the 9 states. Whether you are small or big, they were in that meeting. So if the MD have done that, who are the staff? Not to follow or not to emulate him to implement transparency and due process in workplace. So these are the essence of this program. So if the staff that are here today now, it's not just staff. We have directors, we have deputy director, we have assistant director, and staff, senior manager, principal manager, they are here to learn. They have to be very transparent in their workplace, the desk you are working, the office you are working. If the MD is transparent in executing his functions, why with the staff can be transparent to the contractors, to the consultants, to the traditional rulers, and every other stakeholder? It has to start from the top. So NDDC, we are not just according ourselves praises. When you see what is good, say it.
There are different ways of solving issues. It could be crisis, but if you go into crisis in solving issues, an eye for an eye will make the whole world go blind. So there are better ways of doing things. You can dialogue. You can communicate with each other. You can solve issues on a round table. That way, issues can come up. You now discuss the things that must be done to ensure that the world will live at peace. Here in Niger Delta, we want to ensure that we live peaceably with each other. Then progress can continue. There can be development. The things we are looking for, road, water, housing, bridges, jetties, can only come if we live at peace with each other. So that nobody will obstruct each other in doing what they ought to do. Sometimes some people will want to obstruct contractors in doing things, but we can resolve those issues on the round table. Here in NDDC, our belief is that let men and women come to us to dialogue with us. Instead of saying we don't go agree or we don't go agree. If we don't go agree matter, we don't help anybody here. If there's a crisis, before you can solve the crisis, days have passed. But if you come for dialogue, we can dialogue and issues can be sorted out peacefully.
My takeaway from this program is the fact that, when the staff are enlightened about the operating standards in the commission, and there's transparency in dealing with stakeholders, which are, most times people from the region that interact with the commission, there'll be very minimal, conflict, because when things are done the way they ought to be done, there won't be the need for conflict. But if conflict arises, we now know how to handle it.
My takeaway here is that in settling disputes within the stakeholders, there are other ways you can do that. And other ways you can do that is going into the issues, discussing it with the stakeholders, avoiding the need to go to the courts. So if for any reason we have a department like this and they are coming up with programs like this to enlighten us that, see, we can settle disputes when we work in harmony, when we are transparent, when we follow due process. And it's giving us the insight that our head, which is the MD CEO, has given us a lead by his own form of transparency in relating with all the stakeholders in the region, right from the National Assembly to the states, the governors, and everybody that has to do have anything to do with the NDDC.
A lot of persons have spoken, but we did not touch the area of love, and I think that is the key area. The most important fact is love. Every other measures can be put to ensure that we resolve conflicts. But can we actually drive the Niger Delta forward without showing love to one another? That is what the MD CEO of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Chief Dr. Samuel Ogboko, has brought to the people of Niger Delta. You see, over time, development has been political party base, where if you are not from a particular political party, development does not go to your community or your ward, your region. The best way we can shun violence and pursue peace, first we must go back to the drawing board and start loving ourselves. With sincerity of purpose, I think we can conquer the ravaging problems we have today in the Niger Delta. When we show love to each other, we should be able to develop our land. A lot of persons want to take everything to themselves, while other persons are there wallowing in poverty. You must expect uprising when you do that. So I say the best solution for us to resolve our issues amongst ourselves is for us to go back to the drawing board and start showing love to each other.
Alternative dispute resolution is not just about ending quarrels. It is about creating an environment where development can take root. The Niger Delta has suffered enough setbacks from conflicts. This new focus on peace and dialogue is helping to unlock opportunities for growth. The NDDC believes that peace is the foundation for every other aspect of progress. Without peace, there can be no development. With peace, the full potential of the Niger Delta can be realized.
One of the drivers of conflict is putting square pegs in round holes. When you do that, instead of doing the right thing, they begin to do the wrong thing that now lead to all the conflicts in the region. So for me, is to appreciate the president and constantly say that, please, as we move on in the Nigerian space, let us do more to ensure that our leadership selection process is tinkered to produce the right persons in the right office. Be it local governments, be it governors, be it community governance structures. If you don't have the right people in office, there is a tendency of people hiding those things that should get to the people that will now lead to conflict, and then we begin to look for alternative dispute resolution. Mr. President should please do more beyond the Niger Delta, in other parts of Nigeria, ensure that whatever excess monies, especially from the crude oil, that the petroleum subsidy, that money going to governors, you can see that these governors
are not dispensing this money to the people, and it is creating more conflict. The monies owed NDDC be paid. The support structure for organizations like the NDDC that is engaging elders, engaging youths, engaging communities, governance structures should also be encouraged so that we can have less and less of conflict in the Niger Delta, in Nigeria, and of course a peaceful country that we all look up to.
Beyond the gathering of the people, it's important to note that if we do not forget the history behind the little progress we have made towards peace, the relative peace we enjoy in the Niger Delta, suffice it to state that this is even rather coming late, but they say it's always better late than never. Now, today, some of the indicators of conflict in the Niger Delta are on the rise. You can see that leaders of ethnic groups are all gathered here today in Port Harcourt. Now, our gathering here is not just to learn methods of resolving our conflicts through alternative dispute resolution methods, but to also review some of the stands we have taken in recent times over actions that are precipitating violent, if not tipped, in the bud. NDDC has just given an opportunity for us to develop the capacity of our people that let us be able to learn to negotiate our interests without having to resort into violence. The reason is violent means have always been a lot more destructive and most of the times leaves lifelong impacts that are always negative. So this is coming timely, and for us who are in the forefront of advancing or fighting for the peace and the development of the Niger Delta, we will embrace this as a method, alternative to what Nigeria is known for in terms of using mobilizing military against people who are generally advocating or demanding for what is right.
Yeah, I give kudos to NDDC and at the same time the MD of the NDDC who has been there for the Niger Delta. You know, he is a performer. He actually transformed the commission to something we did not expect. You know, for the fact that we are youth in NDDC and we are out to make a remarkable change. My advice to the youth is that they should be resilient and, stay focused to ensure that this development that is actually coming to our region is being sustained.
Before now, you find that a particular ethnic group gets the whole proportion. Even though he's from Bayelsa, people from Misoko, people from Delta are seeing his good work. And because of so much that has been said, I just want to say this. In going forward, these precedents that have been set must be sustained so as not to give people the impression that the only way your voice can be heard is through violence, is through taking arms against the Nigerian state. But we thank the MDCU for his proactiveness. Again, we also want to thank the president for appointing him. Now, this is one of such times where we can be proud to say that this person grew through the rank of youth activism. And so you can see that in all of his programs, youth inclusiveness has also topped the rank. And to that effect, I will say kudos to him, and I want to encourage him to sustain this tempo and not to relent.
Those who have been appointed into office should take the model of the present NDDC management. That model that opens the door for the oil-producing communities. That model that allows community to access management. That model that makes management available for people to access. That is the only way we can bring true development to our region. Because as it is today, we now have NDDC, we have South-South Development Commission, and we also have the Ministry of Niger Delta, which is now Ministry of Regional Development. If all these offices make themselves available, in fact, ADRO will be strictly achieved. That is the way I look at it.
Because of this training today, we are determined to cascade what we have learned here today back home, so that our youth especially can begin to exploit alternative dispute methods in resolving issues. Even as we are doing this, we are calling on actors, especially in the oil industry, to play by the rules. You are aware that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu met with Ogoni leaders sometime in January over issues surrounding smooth re-entry into Ogoni land for the purpose of oil and gas exploration to recommence. And all of this is ongoing. But like I said, there are provocative things happening because oil companies have started jumping, just crashing into the land without allowing that process to go through, which is an attempt to sabotage President's efforts in resolving the decades-long debacle between the Ogoni people, the oil industry, and the federal government. But we will not be provoked to take the other way. We will always resort to alternative dispute methods, just like NDDC has taught us today.
From community dialogue to workplace reforms, the Niger Delta Development Commission is using alternative dispute resolution to chart a new path for the region.